I'm really happy to be here this morning. It's early. I'm on Central Time, so I got up really early this morning, and you're here. So how many of you love change? Come on. You got to say, oh, good, we're clapping. We love change. Yeah, right. So change is good. But I want to talk about the times that we're in right now, right? Because there's a lot of changes that are happening, and some are fads, right? Some of the changes, they're going to be here for okay, let me just ask. I'm looking around. I'm looking at a lot of party animals in here, I could tell. Who here, when they're out having a drink or two, who starts twerking? Does anybody twerk? Anybody? So what is twerking? Is it a trend or is it a fad? It's a fad. Miley twerked for how long? Like 10 minutes, right? She may be still twerking, but who cares, right? Yeah, so I have a definition, and that's really where I'm going with this today. I want you to be thinking about the changes that are happening, and are they fads or are they trends? Because if they're trends, they're going to be here for a while. And if you want to be here, like we all want to be, I want to be relevant, I want to be here, I have to really begin to embrace the trends and start to put them into my life. So my definition is a fad is a new thing that people are doing. It's a brand new thing people are doing, but a trend is a behavior. So a trend is a new way of doing things. So I want you to think about today as we go through this and as you look at your job and what's happening, is this a fad or is this a trend? So to help you, let's go back to flip phones. I'm not going to even ask who has one, because I am sure some of you right now do. I'm looking and I believe you do, right? But does anybody remember when they got their first? Mine was a Motorola. And somebody said there was an alarm clock on it or something, and you could take a picture with it, and I was mad. Who cares? All I wanted to use my phone for was what? Making a phone call, right? And then in 2007, you think about 2007, that was not that long ago. Jobs came out with that iPhone, and I remember him saying, imagine, and he held up this thing, we were all used to it with the iPod, not only can you get your music from it, but it's connected to the internet. And that was amazing. I sleep with my phone. Does anybody else use their phone? Does anybody else use it as their alarm clock? I don't sleep with it now. It's right there, right? I can hear a text in my sleep. Can you? I can wake up to a text. Isn't that sick? If I look in my purse and I don't see my phone, what happens? Like a heart beating, like you have a panic attack, right? If you leave the house without your phone, how far do you drive until you say, I have to go back? Or when is it that you say, I can't go back, I'm too far? Because we'll turn around and we'll go back to get our phone. We live with our phones. So think about that little flip phone and think about back in the day and think about where that phone has taken us today. It's changed our lives. It is not only, maybe it was a fad in the beginning, but it's a massive trend right now, right? How about Twitter? Remember a tweet? I remember laughing who cares? What is a silly tweet, right? A tweet. Well, Twitter is getting bigger and bigger. I travel quite a bit, and I was just at the MGM Grand Hotel in Vegas. Behind the reception desk when you enter the hotel is a Twitter feed. It's as big as this room. It's the whole width of the hotel. Now, young people and maybe older people who like to take selfies, and when you said selfie, I kind of giggled. They take a selfie of themselves, they tweet it, and then they put it up on the Twitter board because now they see themselves up on the board, right? Now, if hotels are using Twitter and they're putting Twitter feeds behind their desks and investing money, do you think that Twitter's a fad or is it becoming a trend? It's a trend. I'll ask young people, and maybe some of you in here, how do you get your news every day? And they say through Twitter. That's the only way they get their news. They don't read the paper, they don't read magazines, they get it through Twitter because it's real time, right? Yeah. So now we've got the watch coming out, right? Now I listen to CNBC. This is where I get all my information. I thought I was going to fall here. And this watch came out. I think there's $700. You can get one for $300. So who here is going to buy one? Anybody in here? No, nobody's going to admit it. Now, some of you are going, maybe I'll get one. I'm not telling anybody in this room, right? But what they're saying, what they're predicting is that this is genius. With this aging population, and I'm going to talk about generations for just a little bit today, with this aging population, this watch will be our own physician. It's going to really focus more as it evolves into our health, our heart, our blood pressure, and it's going to be our monitor. And we'll see if I came back here 10 years, even even 5 years from now, how many of us will have that watch on? I'm not sure. But I think this is going to be a massive trend. We'll wait and we'll see. So sometimes fads come out and we look at them. Sometimes we say, I'll wait and see. So this one is going to be, I'll wait and see, right? So why am I talking about all this? I'm talking about it because right now change is a massive trend. The U.S. Army, the most conservative of all departments, says that we are in transformational change. That's a big word. Transformational change. And what that means is that how we do everything is turning inside out. Now, I'm a motivational speaker. I don't want to get any of you depressed at 8:05 in the morning. But I want you to start to look at things and the resistances that you have. Where does that little come in? Because we have resistances. And sometimes it's what resists persists. So it continues to come on because everything is changing, from generational changes. Younger people are changing the way we do business, to organizational changes. Technology is a changer. The environment is a changer. The global picture is a changer. I mean, everywhere you're looking, how we get our news, how we communicate, it's all being turned inside out. I get excited because that means that no matter what your age, no matter where you are, young or old, we're all on the same plane. Because we all have to make adaptations and changes. And for some of us, this is an opportunity for us to maybe rebuild who we are, maybe reinvent ourselves, maybe come out even better and stronger than we were just a year ago. So I get excited because I feel like, in a way, the playing field has been leveled, right? So now I travel a lot, and I drive sometimes, and I'm up there. I was in Chicago, and I had to go to Springfield, Illinois, and I drove through a town called Normal. Has anyone ever heard of Normal, Illinois? Well, when you're driving through Normal and you're leaving, what do you see? You see a sign that says, we're leaving Normal. We're leaving Normal right now, everybody. It's over. So what we took advantage of, what we assumed, I say we can't make assumptions. Look at the person next to you. Look at the person behind you. You may think they're like you, but what we're discovering right now is that we're all very unique and we're all very different. And we can't assume anything. The people that we manage, the people that we work with, we can't make assumptions about what they're thinking. We have to learn how to talk more, ask more questions, and get involved. So we're leaving Normal, and I hate to say it, but right now, old ways won't open new doors. So some of the things we have learned, we have to unlearn. We have to unlearn some of the behaviors that maybe we've had for 10, 20, 15 years, and we have to unlearn them, okay? So today, that's kind of what I'm going to talk about. So I believe that it begins in our heads. I believe that really what we think becomes what we do. And so I want us to now understand that we have to shift our mindsets. And it's kind of funny because coming back here, I don't even want to tell you when I graduated, but I still have dreams about that geology class that I had on the oval. And I still have dreams about missing the final and running across the oval. And I don't want to tell you how old I am, but I've been dreaming this for decades, right? And so when I came back here, I kind of giggled because I'm going to talk about shifting mindsets. And hello, I looked at the buildings here. I mean, what I pictured Ohio State looking like and what it looks like. I mean, this is a massive city. And I thought University of Texas, where I thought it was big. This is unbelievably impressive. It is urban, Mike. It is an urban campus. And it's those buildings, those gorgeous buildings. I used to work at the First Limited, Leslie Wexner, the Limited, over on Kingsdale, I think, Avenue. I can't remember the name of the street. It was so long ago. And there's Les's name, the institute, the hospital. I figured Les is getting old. Now I'm putting my money in the hospital, right? And so I realized that I have to shift my mindset. So that's what we're going to talk about today. And hello, I just got a wake-up call. So my generation, I'm a baby boomer. A lot of the companies I work for in Houston, a lot of oil and gas industries, a lot of them have engineers. And what I've learned is that 30, 40 years ago, all of us entered the workforce. And all these engineers came to Houston, and they joined up, and some even went to HP. Back then it was Compaq, and they all joined the forces, and guess what? They stayed. They stayed. And they didn't leave, they didn't retire. 30, 40 years they've been doing their jobs. And they believe that they know everything. You come to me if you have a question. I've been here 30 years. There's nothing I haven't seen, right? And they had a fixed mindset. And that mindset was, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And come to me, I know how things work. And guess what? It worked. It worked for a long time. And then in 2000, things started changing. 2000, and it is really Jobs' fault with the iPhone, the iPod, the iPad. All of the eyes came on the scene, and all of a sudden, the world became much faster, and things started changing, right? And so what we knew for 30, 40 years with that fixed mindset had to change, because now we had to unlearn and learn new things. And so we moved into a growth mindset. And for some people who are still working today, and many of us are, we still are in that fixed mindset where I know it all, but we have to now realize that we don't. We have to realize that there's a new way of doing things. And we have to shift, and we have to be open to new ways of learning. And we call this a growth mindset. There are many, many books written on this. This is like a massive trend right now of shifting mindsets. So my goal today is one. It's simple. I want you, when you leave here, to say, I have to open my mindset. Before I say, what? What are you doing? I'm now going to say, that's interesting. Tell me more. So before we start shutting people down and closing people off and saying, oh, that's stupid, I don't get it. We have to say, that's interesting, tell me more. Because you see, we don't know who has the next big idea. And many times it's not going to be the way we think because our mindsets are closed. And so my goal today is to go from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset. I believe that if we change our minds change our behaviors, and our behaviors change our outcomes. Let's think about that. Our minds change our behaviors. So when we start thinking differently, we're going to start acting differently. Our minds change our behaviors, and our behaviors change our outcomes. How you react, how you respond, how you behave every day. If you make a shift and a slight adjustment, it's going to change the outcome. And that's what we're here for today, for better outcomes. And so this is the premise that we're going on today. So change is hard. I have to admit it. Change is hard. I think I love change until it happens to me. Even just a detour driving, I've got to go a different way. You know, it's another 10 minutes, it's another 15 minutes. And so I find all the irritants that come every single day in my life, and I realize that no one really loves change. We love to know what's happening. We want to know that these are predictable things. We want to know what the outcomes are. So change is hard, right? But what if I told you that today, before you leave, you have to make a decision. You have to promise you're going to change or you're going to die. Promise you're going to change or you're going to die. Which would you pick? Change or die? We would say change, right? Right. And we would think that that would be the motivator, right? Because if you don't change, you're going to die. But I want to share with you something. Years ago, I still get this magazine. I get it because I love it. And I want to hold it and keep reading it, and I save them. And I've got stacks of Fast Company magazines, but this one I have all over my office. I bought this one, this was 10 years ago, and the whole idea was change or die. And they did a study, and I thought I'm going to share it with you. The study was done about 10 years ago at the Mayo Clinic, and it was with only male participants. These men had severe heart disease, okay? So bad that just breathing was painful for some of them. And they promised them that they would do the open heart surgery, but the promise had to be given back to them that if they did the surgery, they would change their diet. They would go on the Dean Ornish diet, which is very limiting. They would change their diet. They would start doing yoga. They would meditate at least 15 minutes a day where they sat and they just kind of collected their thoughts and did some meditation. They would get with a group, maybe even over the phone, and they would talk to somebody at least once a week about what was going on so that they would begin to share their ideas. So they wanted them to change many of their behaviors, starting with diet and going all the way through to connecting with other people. Because if they didn't do this, the surgery wasn't going to work. Okay, so they did the surgery on 100 people. So what do you think happened? First year, how many of them stayed on everything? The diet, the yoga. How many do you think out of 100? First year, 100%, all of them. So they were scared. Change or die, right? What's the option? Second year, a third dropped off. So we had about 66. The third year, 3 stayed on. So what does that tell you? Well, it tells you that crisis, fear, and facts, they do not work. They'll work for a short time, and usually when there's a crisis at work, everybody bonds together. They high five. We're going to get through this together. Everybody is into the crisis. We're all one. We're a team. And then, as the crisis goes away and times happen, I call it the drift. The drift comes in, and gradually we drift away from the crisis, and we drift away from behaviors. And so with these guys, the drift came in. So they knew the facts. They were scared. They had fear. And they did change for a while. And then some of us say, well, what about gradual change? Maybe we should have had them change gradually. And what we're finding is that gradual change doesn't work at all. Because people start changing gradually, and but in the middle of it, they go right back to where they were. Gradual change doesn't work. If we're going to change, we have to change fast, okay? And the fifth thing that people say is, maybe they were too old to change. Maybe they were too old. And I'm looking around the room, maybe some of you feel that way. Why? I'm too old to change. Well, let me tell you something. You're going to live longer. My dad lived to be 105. Yeah, they actually studied him at the Cleveland Clinic. My mom lived to be 98. I got nervous. With those genes, I thought, how old am I going to live to be? So I took that Dr. Oz real age test. I don't know if you've ever taken it on the internet. It came out 118. So I started smoking. I don't know how old you want to live to be, but the reality of it is that if we take care of ourselves, we're going to live longer. So if you're getting close to retirement right now, this is not the end. It's the beginning of the next chapter of your life. So how do we want that chapter to look? So we know that these things don't work. Crisis doesn't work. Fear doesn't work. Facts don't work. How can I make people change? How can you change? What will work for you? So I've thought about this, and I came up with a formula for change. And I'm going to give you the formula today. And this is something that maybe we can go through and you can think about. There's 3 steps to changing, okay? So I'm going to give you the magic formula to change. It's called relate, repeat, and reframe. Relate, the buy-in. You've got to be convinced, and I'm giving you the relate today. I'm giving you the buy-in. The world's changing. Are you going to be part of it, or are you going to be left behind? Do you want to be in that change, or do you want to be a person that's way over here? Think about the people. I remember when email came out. I remember working with CEOs who said, I have an assistant who will do my email. I don't ever need to learn how to use that. Where are they today? I mean, if you don't know how to email today, hello, you're kind of left out, because the train has left the station. So you have to decide, are you on it? Or are you back there watching everybody go, right? So the reality of it is number one, I want to sell it relating. So for some of you that are managers that have to go back and you have to sell change, you've got to understand that first you've got to get a buy-in from everyone. So how good an influencer are you? For some of you that have families and kids and you want to make changes in your household, you have to sell your family. You have to sell your kids on the changes that you're going to make. You just can't come in and say, we're changing everything today. When you're the boss and you tell people, they'll resist. We can't tell people they have to change. We have to influence them to want to change. That's the relate piece. The repeat. We have to put behaviors in our lives. It just doesn't happen with like a magic genie. We have to put behaviors in our lives. And those repeatable behaviors will become a habit. And that habit will soon become the way we are. So we have to understand that we have to put behaviors and repeatable activity into our lives. And reframe, it means that we have to wake up every day and believe the change has already happened. We have to look at the world and we have to look at ourselves as we are change agents. That we are the people that will help make this change. And it has to start when you leave here today. You can't wait for it. I'm going to wait for this change. It has to start today. So I'm going to take you through the little relate, repeat, reframe. So relate. Relate. I'm going to sell you on it right now. I just put up some of the changes that are going on right now. Like, I could have either taken a cab here today, or I could have done what? I could have Ubered it. Now, I don't like to Uber from airports because they can never find me. But if I am in the middle of a city and I need a ride quickly, what do you think I do? Uber. They're there in 2 or 3 minutes. Who here has used Uber? They say it's disruptive, that it's changing the entire way that the cab business works, right? So right now we are seeing disruptive things happening. How many of you have ever seen a person use what's called a square? A square. It's disrupting. Think about banking and how we've done our banking and how we've taken in our money from charges, and now the square is disruptive. There are things happening right now, massive things happening that are changing the way we've done things for 30, 40 years. And we're in a process where more and more things are going to begin to happen because we're leaving that fixed mindset. The cab industry worked really well for 50 years, and we're going into a growth mindset. Hey, here's a new way of doing it. So we start to look at Groupon, we look at Tesla, we look at all the things that are happening right now, and we begin to understand that change isn't just about processes and technology, but it's about social functions. It's about the way we think and what we value. It's about the environment. It's about doing things differently than we did for the past 30, 40 years. Are we in the change right now? How many of you see it, the change is happening, and you're making gradual changes and adapting to them, trying new things? My kids push me all the time, and my daughter lives in DC. It's really expensive to go visit her. I can't stay at her place because it's small. It's like a closet. And there's no place for me to sleep. So she said, well, get a hotel. Well, hotels are $300, $400. So she said, hey, Mom, I have an idea, Airbnb. Have you ever heard of it? Okay, well, I had never heard of it. So she said Airbnb. And I said, well, what is it? And she goes, oh, you just go and stay in somebody's place. Who's somebody? I don't know, Mom. But they put it up there. Come on, we're going to do, I got a place for $90. But when I got there, it was just me. I was scared. There were it was in the basement on a busy street. I couldn't sleep all night because I kept thinking somebody was going to break in. But I had to change. I had to try something new. Airbnb pushed me. My kids pushed me. Who's pushing you? Is there someone pushing you? You're going to need someone pushing you to change, and you're going to have to say, I'll try it. So now I've done it. Will I do it again? Maybe. I'm not quite sure, but at least I did it once. So there's a lot of changes that are going on right now. So the first question that I'm going to ask you is, so how open are you to doing something different? Let's take a little self-awareness quiz. Let's look within. I've been talking about, let's take a peek. I'm not going to ask you to raise your hand. I'm not going to ask you, but I'm going to start now going a little bit deeper into who you are. So the first question that I'm going to ask you is, how do you see the world? So you wake up, how do you see the world? Is it hard? Is it tough? Are people irritating you? Is your job challenging you, and is it bothering you? Because if you see the world tough, if you see the world hard, if you see all of these changes as like overwhelming, if you think the people that you work with are idiots, that's what comes back to you, because that's what you see. And you see how we see the world is the way the world reflects back at us. It's interesting because if you start to check the way you see things, pretty soon something good can come your way and you go, yeah, right, well, wait for the bad. Wait for the other shoe to drop. You know what? Maybe I got a raise, but the taxes are going to eat it through. No matter what good happens to you, you seem to find that little speck of bad in it. And when you do that, that's the way you see the world. And so these changes right now are bothering you. They're frustrating. They're difficult. They're hard. And guess what? They're going to get harder. Because that's what you expect, and that's what comes to you. But if we can open our eyes right now and we can see the world as possibilities, if we can see the world as relationships where people, they see what we do and they tell others about us, and pretty soon we begin to grow our personal brands, we begin to grow who we are just by people, other people connecting, other people appreciating you, because right now we're in a place where people talk. People share ideas. Hey, I just worked with Bill. Oh my gosh, he's amazing. His team is doing so well, and all of a sudden, amazing comes to Bill. Because we start talking about how people process and how people do the day. So the question that I'm asking you is, how do you see the world? Because this is the foundation of change. If you see the world as tough and negative and you go out there and you try to sell it, people are looking at you going, I don't want what he's got. I don't want to do this. Because this is how he sees the world. So I believe that we have to change what we see. We have to begin to change what we see and then see how you change. Change what you see and see how you change. So when you're looking at your team and you begin to see success, when you're looking at people and you begin to appreciate them, when you're looking at people and you respect what they see in you, all of a sudden you see more of it. So we have to change the way we see the world, and that will help us in going in this growth cycle. So teamwork. Yeah, national champions. I mean, I can't believe it. I'm looking at, and then I pulled up and I saw those buildings and I got excited. I said, oh, I see it now. Over the phone, you can't picture it. But when I saw what the team was talking about, I got excited because I saw who I was going to be speaking to. It's you guys. These are your babies, and there's more and more and more of them. And man, it got me very excited. Then I started thinking about teamwork and how each building and how each one of your teams has to relate to the other and how you have to share ideas. And all of a sudden, it became massive to me that you all have to be the masters of communication. This is huge. You realize maybe you're here every day and you don't see how big it is. This is huge. So how you communicate, how you grow your teams, how you share ideas has to be a key component in this change factor. So how do you communicate? Because I'm sure I'm looking at leaders here, people who are strong and who've been successful on their own. So I thought about this, and I got an idea, and I decided to share it. So I started thinking about strong leaders, and since I'm speaking to the national champions, I thought, wow, who could be stronger than these individuals? And you were talking about the quarterback, but the quarterback isn't any good without the team, right? And then I started looking at the trends that are going on right now, the movies that are happening, and the books that are coming out, and they're all about the heroes in the 1930s, the 1940s. The book Unbroken with Louis Zamperini, has anybody read it? Where Louis was a gold Olympian, and he was a track star, and he was huge on his own. But he was diminished to a small size when he was put on a boat in World War II when he was held prisoner. And he had to rely on his teammates. And it was interesting how one person had to then rely on the team. And then I started reading the book, and it's called Boys in the Boat, and it was about the crew team that won the Olympics in 1936. And it was about how they were all so strong, and they were all these individuals, but it wouldn't work without the boat rowing together. And they said if one person was off, it could actually throw the boat over, and the boat could capsize. So they had to all work as a team. And then the idea came to me, thank you very much. The idea came to me about the Olympics and the relay team and how passing the baton with all of these athletes in the Olympics, all of these individual stars, how all of a sudden these individual runners and these individual athletes had to work as a team, and how we dropped the baton. And so I thought I'd play that for you.
The men's 4x100 meter world championship final.
Set.
There's the start. Gibbons of the United States out on the block, so is Carter of Jamaica.
Imagine, if you would, you had two cars on the freeway. One is driving 28 miles an hour, and another one's driving 19 miles an hour. At some point, there's going to be a wreck.
Watch Justin Gatlin cutting back into Jamaica's lead now. Very even for U.S. and Jamaica.
Patent for the U.S. Blake, the 100-meter champ for Jamaica.
There's the dynamic of how do you reach this top-end speed and get the baton to continue to move without one of the runners stopping or breaking the speed of the incoming runner. And so that's what the dynamic of the relay that makes it so intricate.
Here come the anchors, Bolt and Dix. And the U.S. has dropped the baton. Bolt is all by himself, sprinting to the line, and Jamaica has another gold.
That's what the race is all about, the baton getting to the finish line. So, I mean, I don't care how many people you have that run fast. If the baton doesn't make it, the race is over.
The Jamaican team breaks its own world record in winning the 4x100 relay. And for the United States, the stick-dropping woes continue. Another chapter.
Yeah. So, you know, you could have a team with winners, all winners. But if you don't know how to pass the baton, what is it all about? And so now we have to look at a new way of doing business, especially here. We have to look at a new way of doing business. We have to look at a new way of communicating, and we have to understand, am I sharing my information? Am I getting my messaging across? Because it's great if you know what you're doing, but how do you convey it to your team? And then how do you convey it to other leaders? And how do you then convey it to this whole organization? And so we're starting to look at communication very differently right now because leadership has taken on a totally new look. And so I want to share with you, some of you that are leaders, I want to share with you this new triangle of leadership. At the very bottom of the triangle is the accountability. We have to be accountable. And we have to take young people on, and we have to teach them accountability. I'm going to say it again. We have to teach. Because for many of us, this will be your young employee's first job. And so we have to show them that we are accountable to each other, and we have to teach accountability. And sometimes we forget that we have to teach that because we assume, remember I started with assuming, that they already know it, but they don't. And so we have to start fresh, and it starts with accountability. And the next one is humility. We have to be humble. We have to understand that some of these challenges, we need a team to help us. We can't do it on our own, and we will make mistakes. And we have to realize that when we make a mistake, we admit it, and we move on. Everyone makes mistakes, otherwise you're not growing. And so now we're looking at this word humility, and it's come back into leadership. It was there in the 1940s. It was there coming out of World War II, making mistakes. If you read the book, if you read the book, I just drew a total blank, with Louis Zamperini, Unbroken, you'll realize that America did not know how to fight a war. We made so many mistakes. But we took those mistakes, and that's how we created the great bombers, the planes that we had, because in the beginning we didn't know how to do it. So we look at humility, and we go back sometimes to our ancestors, and we begin to understand that. And next we have to empower people. We can't tell people what to do anymore. We have to empower people. We have to find them doing the right thing, and we have to say, do more of that behavior. And the last one is that this kind of leadership takes courage. It takes courage to admit when you've made a mistake. It takes courage to take the time and empower people, because we're in such a hurry all of the time. And so we're looking at this new dynamic of leadership. And leadership starts with each one of us. Each one of us who has to share an idea with someone at work and help and grow the team. And so things are changing from top to bottom. It's changing all across. And so we've got a new way of leading. So that was the first piece of it, the buy-in. Are you ready to change? Come on. Say yes. Yes, are you excited about change? Even lie to me. Yeah. All right. Now we're going to talk about putting behaviors in our lives, all right? Simple behaviors. And so I thought I'd pick a couple. I kind of knew what my audience was going to look like, so I kind of geared this towards you all, okay? So don't assume others think like you. So we're going to now talk about signals that we give people, okay? Because we want to empower people. We want people to not be afraid. We want people to know that we're not going to bite their heads off, because we have an understanding. We are humble. We have all of these. We are courageous enough to be who we are, right? So we want to figure out then, well, what do people see when they look at us? So we're going to start it off with body language. Now, I love the TED Talks. Has anyone here ever heard of the TED Talks? Okay. If you go home and you Google TED and you Google Amy Cuddy, Amy, I've been following her for a while. Her TED Talk is now, of all the TED Talks, the second most viewed. The second most viewed. You're going to say, who's the first most? I don't remember. But Amy is the second most viewed because it's amazing. So if any of you saw me sitting here today, usually before I speak, I sit like quiet. Like, don't talk to me, I'm a speaker. And I get real small because I don't know anybody. But now that I've listened to Amy, I opened up. I don't know if you noticed that I was open when I was talking to you. I walked around outside, I smiled, because I learned something from this TED Talk, which I have watched like 6 times. Her premise, and you can watch it, I'm not going to give you all the medical statistics, is that our bodies tell our minds how we feel. So think of yourself, you're nervous, it's a big, let's say it's a job interview and you're sitting there waiting, or you're waiting to see the doctor about maybe a test that you've had. How do we hold our bodies usually? And we hold them very close and we hold them very in. And when we start to sit like this and we get really small and we say, don't even notice me, I'm thinking, what happens is we're telling our mind that we're scared. And our mind changes, and it's like fear. And what her studies have shown, and they did this at Stanford and then at Harvard, and they studied the mind during our bodies and what our bodies are telling our minds. So the whole idea is to understand that we have to open up. And for some of us in the morning before we go to work, if you think about this when you're having your coffee, open up, laugh, talk to your kids, make the mornings positive. Before you go to work, it's going to set the tone for the day. So instead of, don't talk to me, I've got a big day ahead of me, and you're reading the paper, and you're all crunched over, and you're leaving, this is closing you off. And you're telling your mind, trouble. So what we want to do, and I know this sounds really simple, and sometimes it's the simple things that change. Watch the TED Talk is how we open our body. So I thought we would play with this for a little bit this morning. So I put remember, our minds change our behaviors, and our behaviors change our outcomes. So how we behave changes our outcome, right? So I put some body language up there. So what's the first one tell you? They're whispering to each other, but look at their faces. So are they saying, I love you? I don't think so. They're saying something quietly, right? We're starting to read their body language. And then what's the second picture? What is she doing? Look at that. What's he doing? And then look at this one. Look at the two of them. I mean, isn't that interesting? So we begin to see that two people doing this, it's a power. And we don't know what they're saying, but we know that somebody wants to be the boss, right? And then I thought I'd put this one up here. Look at this one. Does anybody remember Michelle Obama? Look at, what is she saying, right? So we start to understand, we start to read our body language, and it's amazing how it gives us a signal right away. Now, when we look at that, what is your mind telling you to do? She's upset, right? And that sometimes the things that we don't do, well, let me show you. Think about the things that we don't do.
Subtle difference between Gordon Brown and Barack Obama. Here they are arriving at number 10, and look at this lucky policeman gets to shake hands with the President of the United States. Oh, and here comes the Prime Minister of the... No. At least he resisted doing that, to be fair. I bet he's one of those people that...
Oh, it's funny, right? So it's the things that we don't do sometimes. So people are watching. So how polite are you when you come into work? How many of you say good morning? How many of you grunt? I've noticed, I've been watching some men. I have to say, guys, women, we don't grunt. Do we grunt? We say good morning, right? But I noticed that guys, like, they'll go, What does that mean? So say someone's name. When you call someone and you look at them and you say their name, what do you think that does to the person whose name you've just said? What do you think it does? Makes them what? Women are going to answer. Come on, women, help me. Makes them feel good. It makes them feel good because the behavior went to the mind, and the mind said positive things. And all of a sudden, when somebody says good morning and we start talking to each other, you made me smile this morning. I don't see your name. What's your name? Lee. Lee told me a joke this morning. He relaxed me while I was sitting over here, and then he talked to me. And as he talked, before I got much more relaxed. So he told my mind, this is going to be a good group. And I came up here happy rather than nervous. So we begin to look at when we have to give a presentation, when we have to be in front of a team. And we realize that we are sending messages about ourselves to other people. We want people to know that we have humility. We want people to know that we care enough to empower you. We want people to know that we have the courage to be ourselves and to not be afraid. And so I want you all, when you're giving a presentation, before you do it, to maybe go in the restroom if you don't want anybody to see you, and open up. Because this is telling people I'm a winner. So as we open up our bodies, it tells our minds, okay? So I want you to think about your body language, because we want to be, and this is all from the Amy Cuddy video. When we start to open up, and she says try it in the morning, like 5 minutes before you go into work every day. Make it a habit, okay? We are more confident, enthusiastic, captivating, more comfortable, authentic, and passionate. Wouldn't you like to work with someone like that? I mean, just saying those words, doesn't that make your day a little bit better? Now, I'm talking to all men in here, and mostly women. You already do this, maybe not. But I'm talking to you, and I want you to understand that this is what it's going to take. The world is changing. We want you to be enthusiastic. We want you to be passionate about your work, because when you're enthusiastic and you're passionate, guess what it does to me? It makes me more. And that's our role as leaders. We want to trigger this. We want to come to work to a place where people care about each other, where people are more open. And the way it happens is with our body language. The way it happens with people talking to us. So I thought what I would do with you all today, this is going to take about 5 minutes, but now I'm warming you up. I want you to get with a partner next to you. Everybody get in twos. So I want you to do this. Just turn to a person next to you, and if you aren't in twos, maybe we can do threes, because I'm not going to have you move. So everybody just look at the person and get next to each other. Here's what we're going to do. I want to open up your asking questions valve, okay? We learn about people by asking. So I'm going to ask, the first thing I said today was we don't assume that people are like us, all right? So we're working with people, and we know now they're not all like us. So you have to become a master of asking questions. Many of us ask one question, how you doing? And that's the last question you've ever asked. I'm doing fine. Good. Let's get to work. So what I want you to do is, I want you to ask, so how was your weekend? So they start talking, and then you end it. When you say, how was your weekend, I want you to go a little deeper. Because the person that can ask the good questions begins to understand their teammates. And this is all about understanding, because if I understand you, I can work better with you. And so what I want you to do is become a master at learning how to ask questions. So here's what we're going to do. Let me see, are you all with buddies? Let me look. Everybody got somebody to talk to? Turn to your buddy. Let me see you turn so you're all looking at each other. You have to physically turn a little bit. Okay. All right, good. I made you do that. Body language, a smile. Oh, we got a hug over there. That was good. They're learning. Okay, now, here's what we're going to do. We're only going to do this for about 3 minutes, so only about 3 minutes. One of you has a passion. You love doing something. I don't care what it is. It could be woodworking. It could be cooking. It could be your grandchildren. It could be reading books to your kids. One of you has a passion. The other one is going to interview the person with the passion. So decide real quick, and then look at me and we'll see. Who's got the passion? All right? Okay. Okay, shh. Okay, shh. Okay, shh. Here's the rules. Now, the first question you're going to ask, because people say, well, the first question you're going to ask is, what's your passion? After that, you're on your own. You can only ask questions. Now, listen, you cannot say, oh, me too. Oh, my wife does that. Oh, because sometimes when we ask people questions and we're the leader, we take over. Oh, I saw that movie too. I did. Didn't you love the part where they, and all of a sudden, you're asking the question, then you totally take over. What I want you to learn to do today, in this short time we're together, is I want you to go deeper. So they've asked a question, now ask them another question about it, and another, and go deeper and deeper and deeper. And see how far you can go in getting to understand them in 3 minutes. Everybody got it? Got it? Only questions. On your mark, get set, go. Did anybody learn something really cool? Anybody want to yell it out? Huh? What'd she say? Randy hates fishing. Well, we learned that about Randy. Marcus came up to me and he asked me what my favorite things were, and he stayed on cue. I started talking and he went right into the next one and the next one. It's great. If you have energy and you ask people questions and you act interested because your next question's about what they just said, you're going to create a relationship. And that's what this work is all about right now, getting to know our teams. Just what we just did. Everyone loves it. You were talking about yourself. Interviewers, did you enjoy it? Did you enjoy staying focused? You had something to do. So one of the habits, one of the things that you can put into your life, one of the behaviors in the repeat is opening up, coming to work more positive, and asking more questions. I've got just a few more minutes, so I'm going to get to the last piece of it. And the last piece of it is acting as if, reframe. Acting like that every day when we go to work, right? Okay, so get curious about what you don't understand. That's interesting. Tell me more. Let me hear you say it. That's interesting. Tell me more. Right, so get curious. Remember that our minds change our behaviors, and our behaviors change our outcomes. So what's it going to take? Passion, energy, the ability to be flexible in the face of change. Be resilient in the face of confusion. The ability to see things as they are and to work with people who may think differently than you. Which leads me to my last piece. And I put all guys up there because this is technology. I believe we have 4 generations in this room. We have traditionalists, people that are getting close to the age of 70 right now. We have baby boomers who've been ruling for decades. These are people that are in their mid-50s and their 60s, right? We've got Generation X, the people in their 30s, mid-30s, and their 40s and early 50s. And we have Gen Y, people that are 35 and under. And each of these generations thinks differently than the generation before them and the generation after them. So I want you to swallow your pride, for some of us, and learn from the young. Swallow your pride. I mean, Marcus, I want to learn from you. That energy was fabulous. I want to be just like you. I liked it. I want to be like that. So we have to begin to learn to swallow our pride, and we have to begin to learn from the young. How many of you miss Jay? Anybody? We thought, whoa, how many love Jimmy? I mean, we love him. Why do we love Jimmy? First of all, he comes out confident. Watch Jimmy's body language. He comes out confident. He's always smiling. And what does he do with his audience? He makes it interactive. He plays with them, and that's what we're going to do. I'm going to close it down with a game. We're going to make it fun. I'm going to make it interactive, and I'm going to see how much you've changed in this hour. Because you came in pretty closed. And I'm looking around right now, and you're very open. So let's see how open you are. I'm going to push you. Because Madonna says that music brings the people together. Do you like music? Yeah. So we're going to play a game called Name That Generation. I'm going to play a song. And if you think that song belongs to people that are in their 70s, traditionalists, I want you to click your fingers like this. If you think it belongs to baby boomers, these are people in their 50s, their late 50s and their 60s, I want you to go like this. Woo, woo, can you do this? I'm watching. Let me see it. Come on, you were We're pushing. Have you changed or are you staying? I'm not doing this. Come on, let me see it again. Baby boomers. Oh, that's beautiful. We're getting a video of this. If you think it belongs to Generation X, 2 fists and an X. If you think it belongs to Generation Y, you can just stand up, okay? And if you want to sing along, I'm going to listen and see. So let's start it off.
You made me cry when you said
Who knows this song? Yeah, right here.
Ain't that a shame?
Ain't that a shame that you know what happened in 1955, right? Ain't that a shame? Traditionalists, right? Okay, how about this one?
You can't touch this. You can't touch this.
I don't know, baby boomers. I think X, right?
Touch this.
Did you guys wear parachute pants? No. Okay.
Touch this.
Yeah, 1990. How about this one? Who knows the words? Let's sing it.
Touching one.
Ready? I want to see how I do it. Ready? Reaching out. I want to hear it. Come on.
Touching me. Touching.
Come on, everybody. I want to hear it.
Good times never seem so good.
Oh, you're so good. Baby boomers, that was 1969. How about this one?
Everybody get up.
This is a lawsuit song. I want you to, I put this one up here. It's the law. Yeah, come on.
Everybody get up.
Can you do this? Hey, hey, hey. Hey, hey, hey. All right, that's now. I'm going to close it. Oh, how about this one?
Yo, VIP.
Who's kicking? Who can do it? Who knows the opening words? Ready? Here we go.
All right, stop. Collaborate and listen.
Ice is back.
My brand new invention.
Ice is back. All right, and the last one. Okay, guys, if you want